I'm Laura Smith. I'm an organizational researcher and specialist in employee experience and DEI, and I am actually super excited because this is my excuse to have a quick break with amazing people whom I think we should all be so lucky as to know. And today I get to chat with Verena Rentrop. She's fantastic, and she's actually known as the Chocolate Angel here in Helsinki. So thank you for having lunch today, a virtual lunch with me today.
I mean, it's my absolutely pleasure, Laura. And I mean, the point is, I had my lunch already about 1.5 hours ago, but therefore I can really focus now on you.
Okay, you know what? If you see me like trying to sneak something here on the side or whatever, it's okay. But I'm actually gonna put my focus on you. You are worth it. You are like above food for me today. So thank you, my dear.
My
So
absolutely pleasure.
I actually I just learned a fact about you, fun fact, that you were actually not finished. I thought you were finished because you were, and I was thinking you were the most exceptional Finnish person I know. Like, I've never met any other Finn who was like going out of their way and doing all these wonderful things for like, people just making them like creating these wonderful, and it's not to say Finns don't do that. I just haven't met them, by the way, just to clarify that. And you were just creating these wonderful moments for people. And I was like, that is so exceptional. But you know what? This is fine. Like you are exceptional wherever you are and from wherever you're from. So yes, like you're from where about are you from actually, my dear?
I mean, actually, I'm from an area which is about 100 kilometer east from Düsseldorf, and Düsseldorf
Okay.
is in Germany. So I'm really, I mean, I'm a German, and I often use a rather kind of wild kind of description of myself, what I started using a couple of years ago. And there I
Mm-hmm.
claim I'm the happiest German who migrated into the happiest country of the world to make humanity smile.
Oh, I love it. That's beautiful. All right, but the happiest country in the world, I have no doubt you're probably the happiest German. No doubt about that. But is it actually is this actually the happiest country in the world? What makes you all right? I have as a researcher, I look at the study that they do, and they're like asking people like, what's the best possible life you could have, and then they ask, so where are you relative to that and such. And I think that's like a measure of complacency more so than or imagination, more so than anything else. But like, do you think it's really the happiest place in the world?
To be honest, no. At least, um, if you please, let's say, replace the word happiest with most content, then I think it's
There we go.
absolutely true. Because I
Yes.
think, at least, from my experience with, Finns and living here for now 12 years, right? I think the
Mm,
point is people here are quite content with what they have, right? They have beautiful
mm.
nature, right? They have, healthy air or a fresh air, right?
It's
I
beautiful.
just I just think that people are really content with what they have here. And I mean, a
Mm,
lot of other countries, they don't, right? They always strive for
mm,
more. And, I see my neighbor's bigger car. Can I have an even bigger car, right? So it's like constantly
mm,
striving for more and whatsoever. And
mm-hmm.
at least I remember that once someone told me there's even a saying in Finland: you should not show when you're happy in your face, because people might be jealous, right? So therefore, I think
Interesting.
usually Finns are always like, no, no, we are not the happiest country. But I'm
So are
confident.
you saying
Yeah, sorry.
that we have like very considerate like frowns around here? So you're saying people are just being super considerate and like and suppressing all those potential envy and jealousy by keeping like a straight face? Is that what that is?
I mean, I'm not sure, and I'm definitely not a researcher, right?
I'm teasing about that, but no, yeah, I,
But
I, yeah,
yeah, but I think at least it's really more that the word happiest really rubs
mm,
people in Finland the wrong way, right? So therefore, I think if we would call it,
mm.
the most content country, every Finn would sign up for it.
I,
And
I think that would be a better label, absolutely. But
therefore,
you are genuinely happy though. Like that's unquestionable. There's no doubt about that. There is genuine joy just like exuding from you every time anyone encounters you. So I gotta know what makes this place the happiest for you? How about that? Because you've obviously arrived at that emotion.
Yes, and I would say it's a kind of mix of different things. One, it's
Hmm.
also, I mean, I have to say, I was when I grew up in Germany, right? I had horrible problems with hay fever. You know, for example, you see, I have a birch tree in my face, but birch trees were my biggest trigger in Germany. So I would have,
Ooh.
would sneeze all the time in summer. I would not enjoy the outdoors at all. In summer, you would find me indoors, dark, wet towel on my face, and I would just, be a miserable kind of human being.
Yeah.
Here, I can enjoy nature. I don't know what it is. Is it the fresher air? Is it different type of birch trees? But an
Hmm.
important element, what I think is now, is that they say if you found balance in your own life, in
Hmm.
yourself, then your allergies might go away. And I have to say, I
Ooh.
vote for that option because I have to say, for different reasons, I have been quite an unbalanced human being,
Hmm.
for quite a long time in my life. And here I'm just perfectly balanced. I'm a bit chaotic.
Okay.
I'm all over the place, but I really found a balance in my life.
I love that. I mean, tell me about that balance. I love to hear about this, like this so how is that achieved? What are you doing with this?
Um, let's say, right? I mean, one thing which I also wanted to ask you, right, while I'm
Okay.
answering your question, is that let's say a couple of years ago, I became quite public with an information which, inside my heart, I know already for 40 years,
Mm,
and that is that I'm most likely ADHD.
okay.
What a surprise! Not able
Well.
to
Mm,
not able to focus on anything for longer than a millisecond, right? And just
mm,
all the
mm,
place and rewrite all over the place. And that I know since I'm about 16 years old.
mm,
And but I never shared that, and I pretty much just kind of somehow managed it myself. So I never even looked for any help or anything. And a
mm,
couple of years ago, I started really right. It's now officially recognized that, for example, women have
mm,
very different symptoms. And that
mm.
I think nowadays it's a recognized that it's not just magically going away when you turn 18, right? That's
You don't
just,
say. All right. Okay. Mm.
and so I
So,
pretty much left I left things behind me in Germany, right?
mm.
I knew already Finland, and I visited Finland for 15 years before I moved here. So I
Oh
knew
well.
my Finland very well,
Mm.
right? And
Okay.
I just was able here to also, Finland for me was always a country where people do their very own thing,
Mm.
right? It's not so
It
much,
is.
society, expect certain things from you. And it might be
Mm,
just my kind of slightly misleading impression because I was a German coming here for 15 years, met a lot of people,
mm,
right?
mm.
But at least that was my picture of Finns, right?
But I think it's pretty accurate. Yeah. Mm.
Nice that
I
it's
mean,
not
honest,
seeing it.
I've actually heard from someone, they said that, Finland is full of space. And that's physically, geographically, in many ways, but it's full of space and it is whatever you want to fill it with. And that's kind of the thing that you get whenever you come into this place. You have the option to try to fill your experience with what you want to fill it with. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I love what you've been filling it with so far. It's been lovely to behold. Mm,
So therefore, I think a few years ago, I really started to kind of just come to grips with everything, I do.
mm,
Right. I even, found something which comes deeply close or out of my soul, meaning,
mm,
why and what I do, how to make people smile.
mm,
And so I just knew deep down that what I do is the right thing.
yeah.
Right. And they even I stepped out of the whole corporate world. I stepped out of being a complete workaholic just for one company and one job, and
Mm.
just found myself in all the craziness I do.
Well, you know what? I was actually even going to ask about that because you do have multiple things that you're juggling. And I guess that kind of fits with having ADHD, perhaps, but then also just being a very creative person and you have lots of energy. And you were talking about balance. And that got me really just wondering when people often talk about balance in like a professional context. I talk like professional, like work-life balance.
Mhm.
But I really like to think about like professional and personal fulfillment, that balance that you get there. And you have so much positive energy that you put out there through your side hustle, through, Chocolate Angel. And you got to talk about that in a second. But like, how much fulfillment do you actually really need to get from your professional job? How do you balance, like, what do you, how do you get your energy from these different kind of places? And how exactly are you getting what you need from these different experiences?
I have to say, I love your description of the fulfillment because I get fulfillment from both sides. And honestly, I
Mm-hmm.
need the fulfillment from both sides. Because right for about 6 years, I tried to do only Chocolate Angel. I gave up
Mm-hmm.
corporate job, IT. I left that all in. I said, oh, that's all crap, right? I will just make people smile for the
Yeah.
rest of my life and voila.
Oh,
Um,
what a wonderful life. Yeah.
Yeah, but I tell you, I mean, it was not an easy life either because, right,
Mm,
I dropped out of that gigantic, corporation and I didn't really know where and what and right. But
mm,
I came back into the corporate world already in 2019, and that was
mm,
really because of the money. And what I also realized is that
mm,
if your whole financial stable ground is based on
mm,
that someone books you as a chocolate angel, that's a
mm.
very different thing, and that does not also necessarily make it easier in any way.
No.
So when I came back into the corporate world, I realized, I mean, I have a business background, I have 17 years IT background, I really love it, right? And
Yeah.
I'm able, and it gives me so much, right? But I also started to
Mm,
realize, right, I give my corporate job exactly the 7.5 hours, and if need, an hour more, whatever. But
mm.
that's it.
Yeah.
I turn
Okay.
off my work profile, and then it's everything else. So that 7.5 hours I give the company a lot. I happen to realize that.
Mm,
And yes,
mm,
just started again in a company, right, about 6 months ago.
mm,
But so it gives me incredible fulfillment, right? I'm helping,
mm,
I'm doing, I'm in a mix of support and maintenance, or pretty much IT support, service management, etc. role,
mm.
and that gives me incredible fulfillment. So that out of that one, I then can just go to the next place and take my box out and make you smile or do whatever, and then do the other crazy things on top of it.
You know what? It's occurred to me that not everybody in the world is blessed with the understanding of what it means to be a chocolate angel. So, do you think? Because I can imagine some people are like, "What on earth is she talking about?" How about we actually take a second and explain, and you can explain to people what on earth that actually means. Because you're the one going by that name. Tell people what it means, please.
Okay, let me first, give you that real experience. So, my dear Laura,
Hmm.
is there anything in this box? What I hope you can see it, and it just floods into your screen. So, is there anything in this box what I can offer you?
This is how I met you, by the way. This is exactly how I met you.
And
This is,
and something in
yeah.
the piece of my eyes, my dear Laura, does this
Mhm.
give you any childhood memory flashbacks?
I have to say, chocolate, maybe not so much. I grew up in like Detroit and such, and in the inner city and such, but there was like the black church experience. They always had like the grandmas who were giving out candy,
Yes.
and that was a thing. And that was, you get the peppermints or something like this, or these random strawberry candies, which I don't think they actually have a name as far as I know, but this the random strawberry, but never actually chocolates because they would melt and they were in like the purses in very hot settings. So yes,
I mean, I love that kind of, but I mean, you know what it is, right? It's Reese's.
good stuff. Good stuff.
So let me tell you a bit about what I do as a chocolate angel. So pretty
Please
much
do.
what you just experienced is what I do as a chocolate angel. I make you
Mm,
smile. I surprise people with a positive approach and a positive
mm.
attitude, and then they're allowed to take a look into this box and take something out of the box. That's
Oh.
as simple as it is. And I have to say, I mean, it's kind of, to me, still more or less mind blowing every time it happens.
Mm.
right? Because I remember when someone was like, "Oh, Verena, have you copied that from the US, right? Where everyone is so smiley, smiley, smiley." And I'm like, "No."
And thank you, by the way, for just being, your unique self and giving this joy for a lot of people. This is how I met you. I don't know if you remember how we met, like years and years and years ago,
Yeah,
when I
let
first
me
came to
yes,
Finland.
let me
Yeah,
briefly tell you, why I would like you to tell that to everyone else how you met me first. Because,
please.
right, Um, right. I'm a connecting person in Finland. I'm very active in LinkedIn, and I saw always that name, Laura Smith, appearing everywhere and here and there and everywhere. So I was like, wow,
Mm.
she really knows her stuff, right? And then I think you
Fingers
posted
crossed.
something, and then you were like, hey, you would like to something similar like we do now, but it was not
Mm.
recorded. And then
Yeah.
because we were not connected in LinkedIn, and then I sent you an in-mail
Mm.
message, so pretty much I had
Yeah.
to pay for that. And then I
Mm.
said, "Dear Laura, right, we
Oh.
never met, but I would love to have that call with you." And the response email I got from you brought me almost to tears, because
Mm.
now you can take that story from here, please.
Well, actually, yeah. So I was very, very new to Finland, and I was lost in a mall, and I had just my first time going to probably someone out in which one out in Espoo, which is a suburb of Helsinki. I have the worst sense of direction known to mankind. It's the worst. Like it's like a it's not like I have, no understanding of where I'm going. I have the wrong understanding of where I'm going, and that does not help me get to places very efficiently, to be perfectly honest. And I was looking around, I couldn't find my way, and I get sometimes very kind of, frustrated, emotional when I get super lost like this. And you were there, and you came up to me, and
In a cafe.
you in a cafe. It was like a Fatsa cafe or something like this. And you gave me a chocolate and probably
Powder.
also some directions too. And I think but that is something that completely changed today. I can't even remember where I was going or who I was trying to meet or whatever I was trying to do at that particular point in time. But I remember there was this wonderful person who came up to me, and when I was feeling lost and completely just confused and didn't really know, where to go, and I didn't know really basically anybody in the country at that point, there was you. And that made you my angel for that day. And yes, and I'm going to confess, I'm not actually the biggest fan of chocolate, but I did, but just the sheer thought of like someone giving me something just to make someone's day better. I just thought that was the most wonderful thing in the world. So thank you for being you. Thank you for doing that, and for making the days of so many people. I appreciate it. I really do.
And that is so, because at that moment, right? The moment I started reading your words, I was in that moment, because until
Mm,
then I had no idea who that the person I met, what it was 7 years ago, or whenever you
mm,
came to Finland, right?
yeah.
So I had, because I do this to so many people on a constant basis everywhere I go. But the moment I read your words, it was all back in
Mm,
my mind. I was like, oh yeah, yeah, I
oh.
remember. I was in the cafe, right? And they were you, right? And
Mm,
then I was like, oh my
oh.
goodness, it was you, right? And because it's such a
Mm,
beautiful kind of art for me to tell more about,
mm,
why I do this, where it all started, and the really, because now I understand there are even scientific things about it, right? It's just,
yeah.
I tell you, I started it about 16 years ago. It was a time when I worked for Nokia in Germany, and I would travel
Mm,
regularly to Finland.
okay.
And on one of my trips to Finland, right, I went to duty free in Düsseldorf, and I
Mm,
saw a couple of boxes of chocolate. And then I just, I bought a couple of boxes without really thinking what I did, right? I just thought,
mm,
okay, let me take them with me, right?
mm,
And then the next morning in the office, and I was usually always a visitor there. I took the
mm,
boxes with me, and I started walking around the open space. And I opened the box to everyone I met. and walk to the next desk and the next desk and the next desk and the next
Oh,
desk. And honestly, that's how it all started.
you don't understand how that just impacts people's day. I mean, I guess you would because you've done this a lot, but it just that's something. Random acts of kindness are just beautiful things like this. And you decided to keep this from just being not making it like a random act of kindness. You wanted to make it an actual, lifelong mission of what you do. That's a huge jump though. Like what made you how did you transition from like this is a nice thing to do today. I made somebody's day to like I'm going to always make somebody's day. That's a jump, you know?
It is, but I have to say, I'm sometimes a bit naive. I had no idea what I was doing there. I did it and I just embedded it into a routine. And by the way, I learned now that, also if you have ADHD, there's nothing more important than routines because pretty much only if you embed it into routines can you pretty much just even put one step in front of the other. Right? Otherwise, you might
Yeah.
be just completely lost and you don't even know how to leave the apartment in the morning, right? So,
Yeah.
and I would say for the first 8 years, I really did it without ever understanding the impact on people. 8 years
Mm-hmm.
doing it right, flying to Finland, box chocolate, going here.
Okay.
Let's say there were different moments. And one, for
Mm-hmm.
example, you mentioned earlier, random act of kindness. I even didn't know there's a term that like that. Fun fact, when I started working in Nokia, which is now 27 years ago, I didn't speak English.
Okay. You didn't speak English then, but
I
you've
didn't
gone
speak
so
English.
far. Oh my
I
goodness.
only spoke
Amazing.
German. And
Okay.
but the point was that I did not know the term random act of kindness. Right? And
Okay.
then people, when I met them, they was, oh, that's a random act of kindness. Oh, what's that?
Maybe you made the concept and we made the word afterwards and it's just kind of just cycled back to you. That could be the case, you know?
And
Possibly so.
at
Hmm.
least it's kind of fun because, right, part of me making it a mission was that someone named me Chocolate Angel. I did not came up with the name myself, but it was
Oh.
someone from the US who named me Chocolate Angel. And that was someone who used to work for the CEO
Hmm.
of Microsoft. So she
Oh
met
wow.
me
Okay.
when Microsoft bought Nokia mobile phones. And the first time
Hmm.
she met me, I was running out of candies. So everyone else around her got candies. And then when I met her, when I met her the next time, right? I was in the
Hmm.
canteen. I had the bigger box. I recognized her because don't ask me, photographic memory for people, names and faces. So I saw her
Hmm.
walking through the canteen. I walked up with my box, did the usual thing, and she was like, oh, here comes the chocolate angel.
She'd heard about you. You were like,
No,
you were this rumored entity or something. Or no, no, no.
let's say the point was in that moment, she came up with that name. That name
You
didn't
were.
existed. Before it was
Mm,
chocolate fairy, random act of kindness, whatever. So that
mm,
was one of those moments when when that name, really stuck. But
mm.
trying to get back to your question because I know I blubber too much. Um,
It's.
the point is that it was at a time when I still did it, and I did not work
Mm,
anymore for Nokia or Microsoft, but for a company
mm,
which is not even you won't even find it because at the time the energy was so negative in the office.
mm,
And what I did once a week made such a huge difference. That's when it
mm,
started to really where I'm like, okay, if I see, right? I mean, IT people go and say, oh, we change the process, we change the tools, we don't really involve people. And I started realizing I don't want to stand for that. And then when
yeah.
I started, that is really when I'm like, I seem to be so much better in making people smile.
Mm,
And then I really decided, okay, I do it already for years. It seems to be, it's already a service. So let me start it as a
mm,
business.
okay.
And when one of my oldest and best friends, she wanted to run it with me and,
Mm,
join me on that mission. And at some point I realized, I mean, it's not a service for me. It's not something, I was not studying and
mm,
say, oh, how can I change the world? Let me read books and research. How can I change the world? And
yeah.
then she said, this comes deep from inside of you, right? And I'm like, yeah, I think
Absolutely.
it does.
Hmm.
So that's right. She's not involved anymore. She's still one of my best friends. But it's a matter that because I do it now everywhere I go, whether someone pay me for that or not, I honestly, I don't care, right? I will
Yeah.
do this for the rest of my life.
Okay, so this is if anybody's listening and you have the opportunity to get a chocolate angel, visit your office or something, do that. And if you can't do that, just maybe it's something you could might try in your own space because I have to say, it's made so many days like I can remember I started this one job. I was at Bolt for a while and I had a kind of a rough start, but they had somebody who started maybe like a week or so before I had, or a week or two before I did. She was super sweet. She gave me a jar of honey that her grandfather had harvested or whatever and such. And she's like, "Hey, like making your day sweeter or something like this." And I just thought that was the sweetest thing. Again, not the biggest fan of honey or things like this, but it's not the thing that I was actually given, but it's the fact that she actually decided to give me something that was really kind, And I remember that years later, after she'd absolutely forgotten that completely. Um, but I remember these random acts, they stick with you forever. They really do. And it just makes the day better. Absolutely.
And the interesting thing is the person
Mm,
giving it out most of the
mm,
time has no idea what happens in other people, right? And
yeah.
that went with me, and that's because, right, I remember it just felt really good because, I mean, trust me, I do it
Mm,
now every time, and I know, I understand now that it has a beautiful impact on other people like you or,
yeah.
wherever I go. But at the
Hmm.
same time, you get so much positive energy back from it, right? Because, I mean,
Absolutely.
let's say, and I've done it not just in Finland, right? I've done it in different
Mm,
parts of the world, right? It works anywhere. It doesn't matter who you
mm,
are, right? You can be
mm.
CEO, president. Our current president and his son might have met me as a chocolate angel one day. Uh,
Okay, really? That's interesting.
the point is more that it's about human beings. It's about the interaction between one human being and another
Mm,
human being. And I
yeah.
see every human being worthy of a moment of positive energy from another human being.
This is absolutely the case. I think this is a big thing. I work with different companies and organizations, and oftentimes I will like collaborate with their HR or
Mhm.
and it's really funny because in my mind I kind of will judge what people think about HR. Like they think of it as like human resources, i.e., humans are resources, or do they think of it as resources for humans? Like because it's a big thing in terms of, it's do they are they perceiving the humanity of people? Are they supporting the humanity of people? And it's a big thing to think about. How do you build in those beautiful moments to recognize and support the humanity of the people that you're interacting with? Because that's what you're doing. You're working with folks, for whatever your reason, whatever you're doing, whatever your mode or your mission is that you're trying to accomplish. There's something that you're doing that is working with other folks, other people around you, and that humanity, recognizing that humanity, supporting that humanity, celebrating it, and giving those beautiful moments in life. That's what makes a day. That's what makes it an experience worth having. So I love
Absolutely.
folks like that who pepper that in their days.
And at least
Mm,
because again, I mean, now, right, it took me really a long time, including all those years where I was completely out of the corporate world, for me to
mhm,
understand what a difference I make wherever I go, also in the corporate world, right? Because
mhm,
an interesting element is also that I grew up in a family business. So my grandparents, right, founded our family business, right? My father was CEO, my brother is currently the CEO.
mm,
But let's say what I understood in my last corporate job, right, after the only chocolate angel kind of thing. And also even
mm,
now, I understand that my exposure to the world of work started when I
mhm,
was born. So from the days I kind of saw what was happening around me, I saw
mhm,
work. I saw people, blue collar worker who every day, are standing at a machine, and producing the parts. I saw I was sitting pretty much in the mindset of a CEO from the beginning. I remember still my father would early on stop kind of going on a downhill skiing vacation with us, or he went with us, but he did not want to go downhill skiing because he said if something happens to him, right, what happens with the company? So there was a very different
Mm.
mindset, in the family
Yeah.
I grew up with. So now I even started saying, in my last interview, I come with a CEO mindset. And that
Mm.
explains so much because I realized that even, for example, my journey in Nokia started 4 days as a temp worker. There was never ever in my, the universe was
Mm.
not ready for me ever moving to Finland, right? And speaking fluently English with you. But even those 4 days, I took that with a CEO mindset without understanding that. Right.
Mm.
And by the way, if you, for example, have a BMW motorbike, then I'm
Mm.
pretty sure that one of our family, small metal parts are helping you to be either safe or, to get you from A to B.
Okay. Okay. You know what? I feel reassured now. I really feel like if ever I'm in a BMW, I don't know when that's going to happen, but if ever I am in one anytime soon, I feel assured knowing that your family's, pieces and parts are there keeping me safe. Thank you.
And I mean, right, you might just want to go with someone on a BMW motorbike, right, to have a lovely ride.
Yeah, I I think I've been on a motorbike maybe a couple of times in my life. In San
Never.
Francisco, it's a thing, and the hills and everything. I really felt I was riding the back of it, of course, and I felt I could have flown off like multiple times. I'm thinking, is this? I felt like your father, who's like this risk averse person. Like what would happen to to things if I didn't make it? And this is my mentality of that. Like, do I, is this the thrill that I'm going to get from this? Is it gonna equal out to like the consequences if it doesn't go too well? Mm, maybe not, maybe not. So for me, don't necessarily have to do that again, but I trust that at least the parts and pieces are safe. How about that? Yay.
Absolutely. No, that's a deal, right? Let's shake hands on that one.
We
Um,
agree. Woo! Nice.
Laura, let me ask you a question because I know, I mean, you, right, did you earlier mention Detroit, or did I heard that right? Or at least
I
you're
Yeah, I am from Detroit originally. Yeah,
okay.
that is true.
And
Mhm.
then I think you did quite a tour around different parts of the world. So,
Yeah, that's the case. So here's the thing. I
yeah.
I grew up in inner city Detroit,
Hmm.
and there weren't a lot of people that were just like getting up and going out different places, except folks who maybe were in the military. And like my dad. My dad was actually a Marine.
I
And
see.
so I thought it was really great. My dad got to go to like Italy and Spain and France and all these places and such. And, and his twin brother also was in the military at the same time, but he got sent out to a less, lovely tour in other places and got quite didn't have a lovely experience there, I have to say. But the thing is, I wanted to see places. I wanted to go places. I didn't want to risk my life or risk anybody else's life to do it. So I was like, there has to be a better way. And I studied linguistics, and so that was my way of kind of getting to go different places and travel around and meet different people and talk to folks. And yeah, so I did that. So I went to school out in in Detroit and then California, and then I did some time out in Brazil and Spain and yeah, various places, I suppose. Lived in Germany for a while, and
Wait a
now in
second.
Finland.
Wenn ich jetzt mit dir Deutsch reden wollte, if I want to speak
Oh,
German with you,
ja, aber ich habe fast alles mein Deutsch vergessen, leider.
Laura, that sounded
Hm.
quite without an accent even.
Ah, wirklich?
Ja,
Hm.
wirklich. Real,
Oh,
for real.
danke. Thank you so much.
How,
I,
how,
I I did live in Berlin for like 4 or 5 years, so you have to learn something. And Germany is a place where you really have to learn the
yes,
language if you're going to
yes.
live there. And
Oh, yes.
as well, it helps in every country you go to, but there's certain places where you can't like survive. I would say, if you're in Berlin, you could probably survive for a while, and like you could take sometimes it helps to have, somebody you can talk to. You can find, your way to help to navigate some of the bureaucratic processes, etc.
Yeah.
Um, if you can. But yeah, Germany, there are a lot of bureaucratic processes that are obviously all in German, and you have to you gotta learn it, you gotta get it, and there's no customer service you're gonna ever get in English, and you're gonna have to like navigate certain scenarios in the same way that when I lived in Brazil when I was living there. Um, if you want to get anything, or if you want to find out like where the bathroom is, or like how to, like very basic stuff, you have to learn the local language. Finnish is a language that is interesting. The context here, I think it's been a lot slower for me to learn the language in some ways because it hasn't been as essential for surviving.
Yeah.
But it's something where you learn it just more for cultural reasons in that sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's a definite you definitely see that happening in that sense, that affecting things.
But I mean, it's interesting because let's say, I mean, I know I speak exactly German and English, and English took me. I think I started learning English when I was 10 years old, and I mean, I left school and said, I really don't need it. I live in the middle of Germany, right? Leave me alone with
Yeah,
your
yeah,
language.
yeah.
Blah, blah, and
Exactly. I get that.
I.
I get that. Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
But I also know, for example, if you really, go for work to Germany and really, unless you,
yeah.
I don't know, Berlin perhaps and I don't know about Munich or other really large cities, but you can't really go to Germany and expect English is enough. And I'm not
Exactly.
saying that in Finland it is. Let's say in the capital area, it's most probably easier. And for
Mm,
example, I know that I know my own limits, and part of it is right. My brain is constantly on an high speed and here and there and everywhere. So I know where
mm,
my limits are. But at the same
yeah,
time, me not learning Finnish is partly even coming back to the balance question we had discussed earlier.
yeah.
Because as I have an attention span, unless I really interact with an individual person, right?
Mm,
So my ability to learn another language is pretty much impossible, but because I don't understand Finnish, means I'm not constantly distracted from every single thing I hear everywhere.
that's a thing. That's a truth. Yeah.
It's
I
white
yeah.
noise for me.
Hmm. I can understand that. For me, it's an interesting thing. I have learned a lot more Finnish since my daughter has been born, to be honest.
Oh, how
Because
old is your daughter?
people she's 6 now, so it's been a while, but, like, so it's been, like, initially, it wasn't. I mean, I started with classes and such, and there's a big thing with Finnish where it's a very different kind of language written in the classroom than it is actually spoken. So
Mm,
I don't think my classroom time benefited me very much when it comes to, like, being out in the world so much. I mean, it didn't translate so much in that sense. And I didn't start understanding maybe spoken Finnish until everybody was start talking to my daughter, and they
mm,
were very much being like creating context for these things. It was very clear because she was a blank slate, so you had to like this is this and this is that, and they would just and they'd have these kind of things like when they're talking about coming over here and doing that and sit there and watch out and because it was so very context driven, it was so much easier to learn it.
mm.
um, and it took that basically. And now my daughter like tries to teach me things and such, and we'll go to the bus stop and she'll be like, "Mommy, what do you know what that is in Finnish? And how about this and that?" And so I have to kind of up my game on that. But for me, honestly, I think uh, it comes down to like relationships and money, like are the major things that
Yeah.
drive me to learn a language. And if
Mm,
I, financially speaking, can thrive in a place, I will learn the language it takes me to financially thrive in a place, to be honest.
yeah.
And, or if there are like relationships that I have, like with like really good friends there or like a partner or something like that, then you try to learn that language in that sense to be able to facilitate that. But if that's not something that's necessary in either part, then you default to whatever language is a common language that, you know, takes stress off of your plate at that particular point in time.
Yeah. And at least two things on that. I think also if, for example, I would have a Finnish partner or if I would have Finnish kids, right? And I would
Mm,
like to really understand, for example, the conversation with their, the other, grandparents, etc. Right? That would
mm,
give me also then I would perhaps not do all the chocolate angel left, right, whatsoever, and just really try on that.
You in
I
Finnish,
say
that's
it
what you do it,
I say it in Finnish. Sukla
Yeah.
enkeli haluatte de hymy.
Oh, look at that. You can speak something.
Same exciting.
But yeah, that the context and the motivation are important. And for me, actually, I've always kind of had a foot out of the door when I was in Finland,
Mhm.
and that's unfortunate. But like, you think about, if is this a place where you're going to belong? Is this a place where you're going to thrive? And I kind of always had some question marks in that for me. So for me, that was a thing where maybe didn't put as much effort into like building that, as a bridge to where I was going to be,
Mhm.
because I wasn't certain if that's actually where I was going to stay. But yeah, it's a thing. But this is home for you, and you are really investing in this place. You are making this yours.
I absolutely did and still do pretty much every day. And I just wanted to
Hmm.
say something because, right, we might also have listeners who are Finns.
Hmm.
And because, I
Hmm.
mean, I really that I don't learn the language has nothing to do with me not respecting this country or every single person living here. Right? That is
Hmm.
just for me something important because obviously also at my current place where, people, speak Finnish around me, but right, I mean, for my job, I don't need Finnish, right? And
Hmm.
surprisingly, obviously everyone speaks English with me. They have no problem whatsoever with that. But it's really because I know where my limits are, right? And
Yeah.
interestingly, the only person who ever challenged me on what, you are living there, you want to stay there, and you don't speak Finnish. Guess what? They were back in
Mm.
Germany. And I'm like, okay, you don't really know what you're talking about. So,
Mm. Mm. No, and I think though, yeah, language definitely it limits options though if you don't speak certain things. Like for instance, I would only stay in an urban area, because of, well, there are also other reasons. I think about like, navigating different kind of services and such, making certain that, if you don't have a certain language proficiency in Finnish, it becomes much harder to be
yeah.
able to, have those casual interactions. Like if you need something fixed, you got to call the repair person. You have to talk about all those details about those things. That's a different type of Finnish that you're going to be using that maybe I wouldn't be as proficient in, to be honest.
Yeah.
Or like certain kind of context with like the legal situations, or like, there's certain things I think about, but then I also think about, as well, culturally speaking, where do I most fit in?
Mm.
And I grew up in cities. I'm used to like I like hustle and bustle. I like being able to go out and there are people, and there are people like you. See, I didn't meet you out in the forest. I met you in a mall. See, there's a very big difference. You see, so yeah, these are things. Yeah.
On that note, because at least, right, I mean, I know that my whole life, while I was still living in Germany, I really never liked Berlin. That was just far too big for me, right? And the two times I was there, I
Mm,
really, really didn't enjoy it. And I only
mm,
started enjoying Berlin now a bit since I moved to Finland. And for example, don't ask me, I have 5 adopted kids and I adopt my kids when they're already adults. But one of my son, lives in Berlin and he's originally from
mm,
Ghana and he's
okay.
doing amazing job, there and all over the world. And
Nice.
so going there, for an event, for a conference, what he's organizing, once a year. That, for example,
Mm,
is enjoyable because it's the context, right? And one of my
mm,
nephews is living in Berlin, so right, meeting their people, that is a different thing. But
mm,
Helsinki has for me about the right size, right? I mean, it's a bit like
mm.
Düsseldorf, about the same. You can walk if
Yeah.
you need to, right? You have beautiful
I think
public,
that's a good
well-functioning
comparison,
public.
Düsseldorf and
Is
Helsinki.
it,
That's a
right?
good one.
It is.
Yeah. Mm,
So,
that is.
right, I mean, Detroit is, I guess, more on the size, towards Berlin. So how do you feel
Mm.
of this relatively small capital in the world?
Yeah, it's not the size of it. I mean, because I really liked living in San Francisco when I lived in San Francisco. And San Francisco is actually a pretty small place
Mhm.
geographically. And you can cycle pretty quickly and efficiently to most locations in just like 15, 20 minutes. Size isn't a big thing in that sense for me, but like, because like Berlin I actually felt was a bit too geographically spread out. Like
Mhm.
it could be like, your Keats, and that's about it. Like your neighborhood, and then it's like that's your world in that sense, right? Um, but I would say that Helsinki, size-wise, is pretty okay, but I do make a point actually when I move to a different country. This is a key thing, by the way. Move in the beginning of the sunniest season. Okay,
Hmm.
move to the beginning of the warmest one. Like because I learned from moving to Berlin. I moved to Berlin when it was like the beginning of February. It was the coldest, grayest year they'd ever had. I moved from California to for the horrible, horrible move. We lived at that point. It was where did we move to? It was it's not.
What?
It wasn't a bad place. It was like Moabit, right?
Oh, okay,
And
Morbid. Yes.
Moabit is not like a bad place. It's not like out in the boonies. But at that point, it was not like a very happening location. It was kind of like it was by like a prison or something like this, and so there's not really much going on there. And you had to take buses to different places, and so I learned a couple of things, and I didn't have anything lined up. I moved there for my partner at the time, and I didn't have anything lined up. So I was like
Hmm.
quite depressed sitting at home in a very cold season with no real winter clothing. I didn't know much of anybody, and going out and about, you couldn't meet anybody. So very bad, learned a lot. When I moved to Helsinki, I moved there in the springtime.
Hmm.
Okay.
Well
Got
done.
to meet more people. I had something set up. I moved directly, I went actually straight from Berlin to airport from Helsinki, went from there straight to a class. I had already booked out classes and such for Finnish and also like marketing communications and such.
Hmm.
So went straight there with my luggage there. And then no, I had some things planned out. Like I had some events planned out. Like I knew there was startup weekends that were taking place, that
Yeah.
season. I had booked out like two different kind of things like this. Ended up starting a company within like 6 weeks of arriving. It was pretty awesome. And yeah, like I had stuff going on and move downtown. It's if you have the money, spend the money on that. If you don't have, borrow the money because it will help like open up possibilities for you initially. Like when you're going at a point where you really need that positive momentum, you need that
Yeah.
burst of energy.
Yeah.
And if you don't know anybody, go do that. Be there. And then it was easy because I was like, okay, I can just go, like I can find my way. Remember, I have bad sense of directions. That's a big thing for me. I could like go 15 minutes there down the street, and I could be at this event, or I could meet these people, or I can see all these kind of folks and
Hmm.
such. And that helped me have a much softer landing. Still
Yeah.
getting lost, but like you get to meet people along the way, and that makes a big difference.
And I mean that's I resonates very well with me. And I mean, it's it was very different than I when I arrived here, but at the same time,
Mm,
I think that also, at least, in the year you came, it was also very different Helsinki, for example, than, let's say, when I first time came here. But at least, right, because I sometimes say it's such a small country and it's such a
mhm,
small capital, but at the same time, it is a capital with a lot going on, right? I remember, for example, when I then started my own company, and I mean, I pretty much did it within a few weeks, right? I mean, that was pretty much
mm,
so easy. I don't think, starting a company in Germany is as easy at all, like
mm.
in Finland.
Oh no, it's so hard. It's actually, yeah. I could not start a company in Germany like very efficiently. You need like to have the lawyers and so much money in the bank already and these kind of things. And yeah, so much easier in Finland. So there,
But
anybody who's interested, Finland's a great place for entrepreneurs. Go ahead.
absolutely. I mean, we both, I think, are
Mm,
fully on agreement. And I even started two companies. I started a toy minimi, right, 12 years
mm,
ago when I moved here as a photographer. And then
mm.
because I wanted to keep Chocolate Angel as my company name, so I started a second company. And then
There you go.
years later, I merged them to one company because it's ridiculous running two companies where both don't make money. I mean, but that's another thing.
Okay, there's truth to that.
But
But yeah, yeah, I'm really glad that you have done that. I'm so happy that you've found a way to navigate that and find the balance of all these things in your life and everything, and the balance of the people and things. But I'm really curious as to Okay. Just to, because you give so much and you give
Yes.
so much positive energy and you give so much joy to people in the everyday life. What gives you joy though? Like what's the thing that, you know, that is your boost of energy, and what are like those, what's the thing that you remember and you smile about, like that wonderful random act of kindness that you can recall like 7, 8, 9 years later and such? Do you have any of those? Who's your chocolate angel? That's what I want to know basically.
Let's
I have
say
so many questions, so sorry.
keep them coming. It's okay. Let's say I mean let's say one moment when someone did something really nice for me was during COVID, when a colleague kind of I never, I'm not in baking, cooking whatsoever, but someone
Mm,
started making sourdough bread, right? And then she was a
mm,
work colleague and it was COVID. And then she pinged me at work and she was like, you know, can I drop something off at your place, right, tomorrow morning before work? And I said, oh, sure, you can. And then she
mm,
brought me a loaf of freshly made bread. And that
mm.
was something, I mean, what I notice is it's the small things, right?
Yeah, it really
And I
is.
mean, I think sometimes, right, what I think in Finland, we somehow need to, wherever we are coming from, what we need to start
Mm,
reading is these small symbols or the small moments,
yeah.
right?
Mm,
Because you can see the smile. For example, what I love, if, I ask a Finn, how you're doing, they will tell me. They might not stop
mm,
and tell me really everything about their divorce, etc. But isn't that
mm.
beautiful? Isn't that,
Yeah,
heartwarming? Because that's where the human to human comes in. And I
absolutely.
think, at least I guess, because the way I am, they think, or everyone seems to think I'm really care, and I do care, right? Because
I
that's,
hope it's just not an impression, but yes. I hope it's
oh no,
actually true. Yes, you do. I'm pretty sure you do. Yeah.
because no, I truly do. Because I also started realizing, right, I have this crazy, not
Mm,
just I remember everyone, but pretty
mm,
much literally everyone I ever came across at work, or, I take the bus back home. And by the way, I lived not exactly downtown, but very close to downtown Helsinki myself. And
mm,
if I walk, and you ask, right, what is also gives me energy, for example, I found now the perfect place. And after 12 years, finally the perfect setup for my outdoor swimming. And I will do that
mm,
tomorrow morning when everyone else is still asleep.
mm.
And I
I
will
love
take
it.
half an hour walking to Seurasari, which is a beautiful island in Helsinki where all the old houses from all over Finland, it's pretty much an outdoor museum showing the history of
Nice.
Finland buildings. And
Hmm.
there I will go long before everyone else is awake. I will do a half an hour to 45 minutes swimming in the Baltic Sea.
That
And
is
we
so
have
cold, but I am happy for you. Yes. Enjoy that. Enjoy that. I will be nice and warm in my bed at that point, but I'm so happy for you. Go enjoy. Yay. Hmm.
it's Laura, it's not that cold. It's about 20 degrees. I mean, 20 degrees is a beautiful warm swim.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. Um, enjoy live your best life. Live your best life. That's the most important thing to do. Absolutely. Uh, but my dear, okay, you're going to live your best life. You're going to be creating more joy for other people and for yourself, and I'm so excited about that. Um, I want to have you in more of my days, incidentally. So don't be a stranger. But I also want to note that
Never.
if someone else is looking for like more positive energy in their day, go look up Chocolate Angel. It's a fantastic service, with a wonderful person, very nice, wonderful human being. Get to know her. Also, anyone can keep listening. We have so many other kind of conversations coming up, but just wonderful folks who are putting out some positive energy for your work day. This is going to be serious. I'm working on this. This is kind of the beginning of this, but people like you make days better, and everybody needs something good to look forward to in a day. So thank you for being the good thing I look forward to today in this conversation. And I hope that, people can find more about you and do more, be inspired to be that good person for other people today.
Thanks a lot. And what can I say? One of the beautiful things of my day, right, beside of
Mhm.
plastering a beautiful pink heart on my window so that my neighbors can see it, right?
Oh, that's lovely.
The highlight of my day is talking with you. So, and I mean
Oh,
that from the bottom of my heart.
that is so sweet. By the way, I forgot to mention, you'd actually brought this up at some point. On LinkedIn, I actually do have like a calendar where any perfect stranger can just jump in my calendar for a couple minute chat on Wednesdays, like Wednesday one-to-ones and such, if anybody wants interested in that. Just something, a very quick chat just to say, hey, get to know new folks and such, that's the thing. And then yeah, have more conversations with this with people just to share, to have something good. So, my dear, you are always something good. I hope that you have a great day to match your personality and your energy. Uh, and I'll see you around. I'm going to
Absolutely.
finally go get something to eat. I'm starving.
Take care. You should not starve after talking an hour with me.
No, exactly about chocolate. It's horrible. I've been thinking about, these things. Like, what can I put in my... All right. Have a great one, dear. See
Take
ya.
care.